welcome to SafeBox Info. Today, we're unpacking the profound effects of global weather patterns on the Indian subcontinent, pulling directly from recent scientific, meteorological, and economic reports. We're looking at a massive atmospheric engine that operates thousands of miles away, yet somehow has the power to completely reshape daily life, agriculture, and extreme weather right here in India.
Okay, so let's jump right into this by confronting a pretty stark warning from Goldman Sachs analysts about a looming multi-year global food price shock. I know, it sounds like a plot from a disaster movie, right? But it's actually based on very real oceanic data. The big question we're answering today is, how does a warming event out in the vast Pacific Ocean translate into a higher grocery bill for a family in Delhi or Mumbai, potentially lasting all the way until 2028?
To wrap our heads around this planetary puzzle, here's our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. The global climate seesaw, 2. Rewriting the monsoon rules, 3. Fields under pressure, 4. The food price shock, and finally, 5. India's preparedness shield.
All right, part 1. The global climate seesaw, understanding those massive oceanic shifts. First, we really need to ground ourselves in the scientific mechanics driving these weather anomalies. It all kicks off with ENSO, which stands for the El Niño Southern Oscillation. You can think of this as a massive global atmospheric and oceanic engine. Normally, you've got these strong trade winds blowing warm water westward across the Pacific. But during an El Niño, those winds weaken, and all that warm water just sort of sloshes back towards South America. This abnormal warming completely alters something called the Walker circulation, which essentially rewires global rainfall patterns.
Now, it's a stark contrast between the two extremes of this oscillation. On one side, we have El Niño, the warm phase. For India, this typically means a suppressed monsoon, delayed onset of rain, prolonged dry spells, and even severe heat waves. But on the flip side is La Niña, the cool phase, which does the exact opposite. Historically, it brings normal to above normal monsoon rainfall, though it can also trigger colder winters. They are literally two sides of the exact same climatic coin.
Moving right along to Section 2, rewriting the monsoon rules, because, as we'll see, this relationship is definitely changing. Let's look at how these global anomalies specifically alter the Indian monsoon. This weather system is absolutely crucial. It nourishes half of India's cultivated land, but the effects of a disrupted monsoon are rarely uniform across the board. You might have severe, cracked earth droughts in one state, while another is getting hammered by intense, erratic rainfall. Indian agriculture essentially holds its breath for the southwest monsoon every year, and when El Niño weakens that system, the moisture-laden winds from the Arabian Sea completely lose their punch. But here's where the science gets really fascinating, because it's evolving. A recent study by the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology reveals a pretty surprising twist. The relationship between El Niño and the monsoon is actually shifting across different regions over time. For instance, the linkage is getting significantly stronger over North India, yet it's weakening, becoming almost non-existent, actually, in the core monsoon zone of central India. Meanwhile, things have stayed moderately stable down in South India. So that old playbook of El Niño always equals a nationwide drought, yeah, that's being completely rewritten. Even with those changing regional dynamics, though, you just can't ignore the historical track record. Check this out. Out of 16 moderate to strong El Niño events since 1951, exactly 12 resulted in deficient or below normal rainfall. 12 out of 16. That is a massive historical risk. When the ocean warms significantly, the odds of a struggling monsoon skyrocket, plain and simple. Which brings us to Part 3, Fields Under Pressure. Let's look specifically at the threat to Kharif agriculture. When the monsoon is delayed or comes up short, the clock instantly starts ticking for farmers. Kharif crops, which usually start in June, are incredibly sensitive to timing. Take rice, for example, India's principal Kharif crop. It's highly exposed in rain-fed regions. Without timely rain, the nurseries just fail. Pulses suffer from poor flowering and pod development. Oilseeds see reduced seed formation because of the moisture stress, and cotton plants get severely stunted. These crops are basically fighting for survival during their most critical stages of development.
But here's the thing, vulnerability isn't just about the weather. It's heavily tied to agricultural choices. Data from Care Ratings highlights this wild regional disparity. Rajasthan actually ranks as highly resilient because they have very little reliance on water-intensive crops, plus a ton of non-crop agricultural activities. Conversely, you have Punjab. Despite having excellent irrigation and reservoirs, Punjab ranks lower in resilience. Why? Because of their continued heavy dependence on water-guzzling crops. So crop choices literally dictate a state's economic defense against El Niño.
All right, let's look at what this means for your wallet in Section 4, the food price shock, moving from fields to wallets.
Translating this weather and crop data into human impact brings us back to that looming threat of inflation we talked about at the start. Remember that Goldman Sachs warning? Well, their analysts noted that some regions in central India received only 50% of their usual rainfall recently. They're projecting that these severe El Niño impacts won't just be a one-season headache. They could disrupt global food supplies and keep prices elevated all the way into 2028. We're looking at a true compounding crisis.
So, what exactly drives this inflation locally? Heat waves and erratic weather put immense pressure on perishables. We're talking about the holy trinity of Indian cooking: tomatoes, onions, and potatoes. They are incredibly exposed to seasonal spikes. Add to this the threat of imported inflation. Think about it. If El Niño hurts crop yields in Malaysia and Indonesia, the price of palm oil shoots up, hitting Indian households right where it hurts.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Section 5, India's preparedness shield. We are pivoting from panic to proactive defense.
Let's look at a super reassuring macro-level metric. Going into a recent projected El Niño season, reservoir storage in May stood at 30.4% of full capacity. To put that in perspective, that is significantly higher than the 25.1% average we historically see heading into El Niño years. Having more water in the bank means enhanced irrigation capacity, which helps break that fatalistic link between a failed rain cloud and a failed crop. Beyond just physical water, there's some serious structural economic shielding going on. India currently maintains record-high food grain buffer stocks, especially wheat and rice, to help stabilize market prices. But on the individual farmer level, three massive financial safety nets are in play: the crop insurance scheme, the Kisan credit card for accessible capital, and direct income support through PM Kisan. These are specifically designed to absorb the financial shock. It's all about making sure one bad season doesn't completely wipe out a farmer's livelihood.
And the government is getting incredibly proactive on the ground, too. They aren't waiting for a crisis, they're tackling it with a multi-layered contingency plan. We have over 700 Krishi Vigyan Kendris, these are agricultural science centers, dispatching localized scientific advisories. They are actively pushing farmers to shift towards short-duration, low-water crops like pulses and millets. And crucially, they're delivering this data directly to the farmer's pocket via digital SMS and WhatsApp agro alerts. I mean, that is real-time climate adaptation in action. So, to wrap up this analysis of our source material, I want to leave you with this thought to ponder. We obviously cannot control the temperatures of the Pacific Ocean, right? El Niño and La Niña will continue their planetary seesaw. But with record buffer stocks, targeted digital advisories, smart crop choices, and robust financial safety nets, the structural shields being built today might just redefine our climate resilience for decades to come. Have we finally learned to weather the storm? Thank you for joining me, and keep questioning the systems that shape our world.